everybody. Great to see
Hello.
you. Hello.
Hi, hi.
Welcome to the Into Design Systems Career and Freelance Tips online meetup. Great to see so many people. Let us know in the chat where you are joining us from today. Hello. Oh, hi. That's a new word. Also, people say yellow instead of hello, and I was wondering what's going on with this thread.
I'm actually one of those person. Yeah.
Yellow.
I say yellow all the time.
Yellow, everyone. Great to see so many people. We have people from Berlin, Stockholm, Spain, San Francisco, Brazil. Amazing. All of those
And I've even
places where I
seen
would love to
Bangladesh.
be now. Really cool. Philadelphia, Florida, really cool. So many people. And from Germany. Yes, that's really cool. Let's give
And
people some time to join.
I think I also see Portugal. Me and Thiago are also Portuguese, so Portugal for the win.
Yes.
Oh, two from Portugal here tonight.
Nice.
Exquisite.
That's amazing. So I'm happy to do this meetup with you tonight and with my design system friends, Tiago, Raquel, Petra, and Taylor. Please give them a big round of applause in the chat. Nice. A lot of claps. All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get started with the number one tip, and it is networking. So luckily tonight or today, you don't even have to leave your home to do some networking because we have prepared a really cool Miro board for you. I will post the link in the chat. Feel free to repost it and also share my screen. So let's do some networking. We want to know where you are joining us from today. So today I'm located in Munich. Wow, this is so bright. I hope you can still see me. So feel free to leave a comment by hitting C. So I must be somewhere here, and I will also use this opportunity to introduce myself. So hi, I'm Sil. Pronouns are they, them, and I'm based in Munich. I'm the founder of Into Design Systems. And maybe I can also share a fun fact. I'm a big introvert, but magically I turn into a big extrovert once I'm on camera or on stage. I'm not sure how that is possible, but yeah, that's how it works. Yes. So with me, I have my design system friends, Petra, Tiago, Raquel, and Taylor. Please feel free to introduce yourself as well.
Should I kick off?
Yes,
yeah,
let's go.
Go for it. Yeah.
I'll go first. Hi, I'm Petra. I'm a German designer, actually born as well in Munich, but I moved to Belgium. I live in Antwerp now. I'm freelancing for already quite a while, for more than 10 years in design systems, and before that as a UI designer. And fun fact, something completely not work related, I turn upside down all my shoes before I put them on because, oh yes, one time I put my boots on and inside the boot was a mouse.
Oh.
And I'm super afraid of mice, by the way. So that was really, yes, my little secret.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. Okay, I think I can go. So I'm Raquel. I'm from Portugal, more specifically to Lisbon. My fun fact will be a little bit weird, but I think it will be funny. When I was 13, I put braces on the top, and eventually I would put on the bottom. And when they did an X-ray, they said like, "Oh, we cannot put you braces on the bottom because you might, grow some teeth." And I was like, "What?" And they was going like, "Oh, don't worry, probably 3 or more and I was like imagining having nightmares, like I could be a shark person, like with 2 rows of teeth. But then they never grew, so I thought, okay, they just, I don't know, disappeared or something. And then 10 years after, I did like an X-ray for my jaw stuff. I have an issue. And they were like, do you know that you have 4 teeth inside of your gum? And I was like, what? So yeah, I had like 4 teeth living here. I didn't hurt on anything, but they were here. And I thought, oh, okay, I wasn't a shark, but in case it was a possibility, I had the 4 teeth to do it. And yeah, basically that's my weird fact. And I was like a scientist dentist case study. So I probably have some weird Google image from my mouth because they were quite interesting on me on that matter. So yeah, a very weird fact about me. I have more 4 teeth than I should.
You're just saving those teeth for later, Raquel, in case one falls out. You know, you can just
Yeah,
pop
that
one
would be
back.
the ironic, right? In case I actually need them, I was like, I had 4 and now I need 1. Yeah. Hopefully I wouldn't need it. But yeah, that would be a good scenario tiller. Hopefully.
Funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining from all over the world. I'm so stoked to be able to talk with you all on this awesome group of people. I'm Taylor. I'm based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I currently work for the Mayo Clinic. My fun fact is a little design related, but I think it's more funny than it is designy. Allegedly, my first job in design was photoshopping my friends' report cards in high school so they wouldn't get grounded when they went home and showed them to their parents. So it was a very fun little interaction with friends. Used the school's computers allegedly, and printed them out there in the newspaper room allegedly, so they could bring them home and, and go through that. So a small fun fact.
Very nice one.
Yeah, I think I'm for last. So I'm Tiago. I'm actually also Portuguese, but now apparently I'm also very exotic kind of Swede that doesn't actually speak the language that well. So I've been in Stockholm for the last 10 years. And fun fact, that was already kind of funny, but the fun fact is like apparently now from time to time I get people saying like, "Hey, I know you from LinkedIn." And I'm like, I'm not sure if that's a good thing, a bad thing. I'm always like very anxious about what you're gonna say about that. So that's a little bit of my new one. Apparently the bar is a bit low here in Sweden, and I'm a very famous person in LinkedIn.
Okay. Your wall of fame.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so cool to have you on this meetup to share design system career tips and freelance tips. I used to be a freelance design systems lead, but we have Petra, who is a freelancer, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So we'll make sure to cover that as well. So the number one tip is, like I said, networking. Feel free to really use this board. You can just click on a person and leave a comment here. Thanks for joining us. For example, Ivan, thanks for joining us. So let's have a look at the rest of the Miro board before we start. Please spread the word if you enjoy our event, so more people learn about our events. And also, we would love to know which topics you are interested in, because we want to do more meetups. So what is your current challenge when it comes to design systems? I think I might know it. I will write down something. Feel free to do the same. And later on, we can have a look. If somebody was right, what do you think is the biggest challenge people have with design systems? I will write something down here, make a note, and then we will
No
have
pressure.
a look.
I will also
No
put
pressure at
my
all.
I will also put my current challenge or whatever, just in case
Yeah.
someone can also help me. So
Yes, please feel free to use this more board. Maybe there's somebody who can help you with your problem. Also, we have our icebreaker, and somebody put already some really fun memes here. And when it comes to design systems, if you could describe your current work, knowledge, or mood, related to your design system, how would it look like? Feel free to post a picture. And I think this is a really fun one. When we will see typography tokens, Figma. Yeah. Oh, I think there's somebody working on the Volvo design system, right? Is it you, Thiago?
Yeah.
Trying to release a 1-year-old work in progress mobile design system in the first 2 months in my new role. Wow, that's a challenge.
It could have happened actually, but we're kind of like trying to get like a new design in also.
Nice. Yeah, feel free to post some nice pictures here. We will have a look at this later. Also, we have a networking wall you can use. You can post your LinkedIn link, and we have plenty of resources to share. Feel free to post your own. Also, please leave us some feedback, share a testimonial if you like this event. What else do we have? We have a job board, so feel free to post your jobs here. And if you are, I think not everything is locked, but now, if you're looking for a job, we also have a board for that. So really, please feel free to use this board for networking and post your job openings, post your resources. Like I've said, the number one tip for me is like how to land a new freelance job is networking. Because I think I landed most of my jobs attending meetups, conferences, speaking at conferences, telling everyone, hey, I'm a freelancer. Those are my services. Like really being really loud about it, posting on social media. What else? Yes. So if you want to learn more about design systems, we are having a big annual conference this May. And this time we will make sure that it is even more hands-on, because we believe that you can learn the best from real examples and if it is hands-on. So imagine you can see the speaker giving a demo, showing exactly how they are, for example, naming design tokens. You learn what's new in Token Studio. You can learn live with Nathan Curtis. You will get some real examples, templates, and files. And a certificate of attendance. Imagine having this in your CV. I think this will help. So we have somebody, Petra, who already purchased a ticket. And I think you have attended all of our conferences, right?
Yes, I think so.
Was it helpful for you?
Honestly, I think this is the one and only conference I still learn, because at some point it's so hard to learn new things. But here it's always, every time, again and again, something mind-blowing new I had no idea of. So thank you for that, for collecting all those great speakers.
Very welcome. So the way I started this, I used to be a freelance design systems lead, and I saw like my clients having so many problems. I didn't have an answer. So I thought, oh, there are so many like great minds out there. Maybe they can kind of help me solving my problem and speak at the conference. So that's why I became really hands-on. So if you want to invest in your career and learn hands-on, get a ticket. We also have an upcoming meetup at Meta in London. It is already booked out in person, but feel free to join us online. Also, we had a meetup in Stockholm, and you probably know this guy. Hello. Who is this? Yeah, it's a really, really great design system lead who's running the Swedish design systems resource Notion. You will find the resources, but probably you can tell us a little bit more about it, Thiago.
Yeah, just like some random thing that I decided to be like, hey, we don't have a list of people and list of systems. And I was like, let me just create one. And then I spent like some weeks thinking like, oh, I need to create the website and the backend. And I was like, no, let's just do a Notion thing and see if people relate to that.
Nice. Also, the learning doesn't stop here. We have an upcoming workshop with Nathan Curtis. I'm so excited about this. Imagine joining Nathan Curtis live to learn from him hands-on. I don't want to say this, but just having this like in your CV, I think if I would like, I helped some of my clients finding new people. Even if I just see this in your CV that you have learned from Nathan Curtis, I would probably, you would be my top 3. So that's an instant invitation to an interview from my side. I cannot speak for everyone, but please take the opportunity if you want to learn about design systems and join our events.
And he's really
right.
good. I followed a workshop last year, and he's such a humble guy, like explaining it like really human. You can ask him everything during the workshop. That is really amazing. So just for Nathan, you have to join, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the opportunity to learn from one of the like best experts. And I think it's also a great shortcut because you can learn how to plan your design system from somebody who did like who has worked on so many design systems. All right, but we are here to share some design system career tips. We have plenty of questions and topics you want to cover. Let us know, maybe by upvoting or putting a sticker to those sticky notes, which ones you find interesting. We will try to cover all of them. If we cannot cover all of them, we will come back and leave some answers here, like comments or sticky notes. And if you like this format, also let us know. So maybe we can do another session because really we have so many questions. And also you can post your questions. So you can grab one and make them like really big. It's not like you have to keep them small. All right, let's start with some general questions. How to land a job in the design system industry? Who wants to start?
I think I can start because at least with my experience, I basically invented or proposed that on the jobs that I was into. So basically, I created the position and the space on my current company, and I think this will probably be still a very common behavior in most of the companies because it's still very recent area. So at least for me, what's been working on is, for instance, I started as UX UI designer or product designer, and then I showed some interest to my design manager or my manager or PO or something that I had at the time. And then I said, okay, look, this is an important topic, and I showed that the team would need it because each product was a little bit inconsistent and so on, and we needed a person a little bit more dedicated. So I was a little bit starting like 50%, for instance, in some months, and then when I proved the value, I could be 100% allocated to it. So for me, always worked out to propose and to create the space first on the company, because instead of looking already on other place, maybe you can have that need in your current job, and maybe you can create the value of your current experience on the company because you already know the stakeholders and the company energy and the culture, and in case it's a good one, you can just have value on proposing that. So for me, it's always been some kind of, and then on my last job, I already have some people that approach me on LinkedIn. So maybe that can also happen. So you start, finding a place, especially when you're working on medium to large companies, which is basically my experience so far, because they are not aware or they know how to invest and what to do. And then luckily you might have, when you're more mature, the availability to whether to hire to try your luck on other companies that already consider that as a job, a full-time job with the title, and hopefully we'll get luck on that. What's your experience so far? Did you also felt that, or did you jump right away on the title that was already focused on design systems? How was your experience?
Who wants to answer that? If not, we'll continue with the next question.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to Raquel's answer. I think you're right on par, right? Systems thinking can happen at any time, at any job, at any role, right? There's always that grassroots style effort of like just starting something is always a great way to get it rolling if you're already at a place where, to your point, there's a good culture, you like the company, you like your, coworkers or whatever. I think it's also worthwhile to mention that, as we think about the design system space as a whole, right? The technology on building design systems and component libraries and all that stuff has been around for a very long time, right? That's nothing new. However, the discipline of having like a role specifically to do that, right, or to be in a company to own that is very new on the other side of that spectrum. So I think it's often hard to say like, oh, you want to land a system or a job in design systems? Cool. First, we got to figure out, do the companies you're looking at understand what they're looking for, right? Because you start to read the job description and it's like, we want this person that does 75,000 things. And you're like, okay, you need more than one person to do this, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's worth mentioning, right, that like to Raquel's point, you can do any of this stuff at any time at your own company. It just might be in a different way than if you had a dedicated role. And sometimes those roles, like your experience, and the same thing happened with mine when I was at Fidelity, is it turned into a full-time role when you switched in, right? Because the business need was there, they recognized the stuff, etc. But I think if you're aiming to jump into a systems role that you found, through one of the job portals or whatever, I would say the approach is just a little bit different because you have to be really, really critical when you're reading through the description, understanding the company's stage and where they are in that system journey and that sort of thing. And I think that's tough to do when maybe you're new to the space or you're not as familiar with what it looks like to have a mature design system or have that thing set up. So I like to just always default to remembering like systems thinking in general requires a lot of questions. So when you go to those job interviews or you're looking at those job descriptions, you should be coming up with a lot of questions to ask, right? About the company, about the way they have things set up, about what your skill set might bring to the table. Because the job market is crazy right now, especially in our space, right? Forget about design systems, but product design and technology as a whole, right? So the only benefit I see in this is that systems is a bit of a niche right now. So the folks that have some experience in it or who have knowledge in it or have made or created or understand the process, hint, hint, go look at and go see Nathan Curtis's workshop, right? To understand how that works at a big organization puts you at a leg up over folks that are just really good at like building UI kits or understand color, right? When you can have a little bit of strategy background, right? It makes it easier for someone to go, oh, I think they can help us get our ecosystem to the next level, right? As opposed to someone who just really good at a particular skill. But every team is different, right? Every team has different needs. Some folks may really only want a really, really prolific designer or engineer or product manager, and that's fine. And some teams want someone who can do a little bit of all of that in the beginning, kind of like Raquel, what you were talking about, like to get it started. So I don't think there's a clean one answer that everyone likes to look for. There's so many ways you can get into it. Raquel's way, right, of starting in the ground, my way of being really critical about what you're looking at and what you're looking for and which skills connect. And then there's a ton of opportunities in the middle of how that folds out.
Yes, and I think the good thing is that this technology is really new and there are so many new, we have design tokens, you need to learn how to measure design systems. So you don't have to have a background even in design. You can learn like everything nowadays, I would say, even online. You can learn on the job. So for example, I studied computer science. I had no idea how to design. And then I turned to be a freelance design system lead. All right. Is specializing in design systems a smart career move? I would say from the freelance perspective, it definitely is. I will share some daily rates later you can achieve, but I think there's a very high demand for like design systems experts. So I would say if you enjoy design systems, definitely it is a smart career move. But if you really have to be into it because you have to learn new techniques and stuff, and if you're just doing it for the salary or the daily rates, at one point you might probably hate doing this kind of work. So yes, if you like design systems, it is a smart career move, I would say.
Yeah, I think I dropped that question in our list as a little bit of a provocation. I think
Okay.
I agree with you. It's not the dumb move for sure. I think the what I'm worried about is sometimes I mentor a lot, like I'm on a DP list, and sometimes I get people that don't really have like design experience yet that want to go into design systems, and sometimes I'm like, don't you want to first do the job and then do the specific niche thing inside that job first? Because it might be a bit hard for them to understand the people they're gonna serve, right? Like you're gonna serve designers, you're gonna need to understand what they need from Figma, what they need to give out to developers. So it's like I wonder what everyone else thinks about this one.
Yeah, I
I
think you
think
should start with the
But
sorry, with the basics. But I think it's easier to, to design components than rather than a website or a complex mobile app.
Oh, really? I don't think so. I really
No?
don't think so. No.
No, it's always the same components, button, another component, whatever. Isn't it easier to design components than, like, if we imagine having to design a full website? I'm not creative enough, probably.
That's all about your specialization, isn't it? So I don't know. I remember it's like all my career long, there was always something which was, they said, a better function than the one you're in, kind of. I still remember when I was starting as a designer, you had to be an art director to be better than a designer. And then the next thing was you had to be a UX designer to be better. And perhaps now you have to be a design system designer to be better. But I found out it's really about you. It's like what you're interested in. Like for me, design system, what I love so much about it is like, it is still very creative. It's still design, but it's really already quite technical, quite strategic. And yeah, on that level, you have to have that in you. You have to love it. And otherwise, this is a really bad choice to specialize in it. So yeah, for example, I was never a good art director. I tried, it was horrible. So that doesn't help then.
Nice. Okay, but now we have decided that it is a good, smart career move, and we are trying to apply for a role, but there are hundreds of other applicants. How can we stand out?
I could take this one. I think there's multiple ways to attack this. So I think kind of like I said before, every company, every organization has a different need, and they're going to want and approach the design system or the program or the things that they're trying to build in a different way. So if you're trying to stand out above other candidates for a particular role you're interested in, I'd try to spend some time digging into as much as you can what the product is, what it does, who it serves, and even reach out to the folks that you can find on LinkedIn that work on those things and talk to them. Like just to Syl's point earlier, like network, right? Talking to these folks informally is a great way to understand what that particular group or organization needs. Because if you can then cater some of your case studies or your emails or your outreach or things you talk about in your interview similar to the ecosystem they're looking for or they're trying to build or their problem points, you'll immediately set yourself apart from folks that are just approaching it with a more general lens. Because again, every team is different, every organization is different, every design system is different. There's no one way to do any of this stuff, right? So setting yourself apart requires a little bit of customization in a certain sense if you want to get like really specific to a role. I'd say the other thing that from reviewing candidates that I often miss in their case studies and information is a lot of folks harp really hard on like, I'm really, really talented in Figma and I built this really cool UI kit. And it's like, cool, that's one part of the job, right? I want to understand how you incorporated feedback from your stakeholders. I want to know how you went and collaborated with the people that are going to use your components, why you decided one component over another, how you made decisions to land a particular color palette, those sorts of things. Everyone can be really good in Figma, right? Anyone can do that. But to think systematically on how these changes cascade to all the other things, how they're going to impact the people you're building for, how you collaborate with their disciplines, product, engineering, marketing, whatever. That's what sets people apart, especially in the design systems world, right? Because remember, if we think about this, like calling it a design system is a misnomer and it's really hard. And unfortunately, we're stuck with that term, right? But it's not just design. Design systems serve engineers, they serve product folks, they serve marketers, they serve designers, they serve strategists, right? And as a practitioner in that space, you then have to serve all of those people too, right? Or at least understand a little bit of what they need from the system that you're building or you're contributing to. So having that strategic kind of like high level view and understanding of at least at some level, like what each group might need will set you apart. It'll also make you a more systematic thinker, right? You're not just thinking for your discipline, you're thinking about the disciplines you're supporting through the work you're doing. And then again, just speaking about the process on how you got to the decision you made. Anyone can make a shiny, pretty UI kit. I mean, hell, you can use AI to do that now in 15 seconds, right? We don't care about that. That is helpful and it's good and it's needed. But if you're looking for a full-time role, right, in an organization or as a freelancer to solve a problem, right, we need to see as hiring managers, as folks that are bringing on contractors to help us, whatever, that you've got multiple skills to bring to the table, right? That can help us advance the goals of the system, unless you're serving a one particular need, right? If you just need someone to build a thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So basically, I just wanted to add, Taylor, that usually I often see people very worried about saying that they know 100 tools to use a design system, or they know the last changes on Figma, but often they don't think that most of the work is actually processes, dealing with people, with human situations. So that's the part that I think usually people miss or think that they don't have that work. And that's really part of the job. Otherwise, you're just building a UI kit. And for that, you can have Figma community or AI tools that you were mentioned. So I think a lot of the work is dealing with humans actually and with processes. So yeah, I think that's in case it's a smarter career move and how you get it, basically summing up these two questions, I think it can be if you know how to sell your value as an advocate to your business and to your company, basically. Otherwise, it will just be something that will die in 3 months of investment because you didn't do the other back end of the work with human and so on.
Yeah,
Totally.
that kind of almost like rings to like why do you want to go into design systems if it is to make decision, if it is to have the design power? Oh, I am making all the design decision. Maybe it's the wrong thing because you're actually serving a lot. You're actually like doing what other people think you should be doing, sometimes without agreeing to it. So it's like, what's your motivation? Making your life, the life of other designers easier, the life of product managers easier, development, or is it like because you want to have power? And if you want to be the design system police, I got bad news for you. That won't go out well in the end.
For sure. You have to have so much empathy and be humbled, because you sometimes are so focused on building one component, but then you validate with the rest and you think, okay, maybe that's not the best approach. And I often see people like, no, this is better because I just copied from Atlassian. I'm like, no, maybe that's not the best approach, So you have to adjust to your audience. And that takes a lot of human skills, I think. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Absolutely. Is there anything we can put in our application, like in the mail or in the subject headline to stand out? Because I imagine like big companies getting thousands of applications. Any tip how to stand out? I think I would send the email. So I will try to be the first one they open when they get back to work, like at 9 a.m. or something, and maybe put an emoji or something in the subject line. How do you make them even open it, and what do you put like in the mail or in the text to stand out?
So I think those are good strategies. I think, but your first point in opening this call about networking, I think is even more important, right? Like if you can connect with someone that works at that company, or a friend of a friend of a friend that works at that company, right? A referral, someone internally will always set you above people that are cold applying or sending emails or whatever. And that doesn't need to be a complicated thing. It could be as simple as, hey, I'm interested in this role. I'd love to know more about the culture of the company. Like just get yourself through the door to someone with an email address at the company you want to work at, right? But I would be really cautious, like when you're doing that and when you're doing those emails, right? Remember that hiring managers and folks at those companies are getting tons of those emails and LinkedIn messages and Twitter DMs and all that stuff all the time. So be mindful when you're reaching out to them. Like if you're asking for something, right, be really clear on what you're asking and why you're asking, because you're asking for that person's time, right? And they're already spending time helping 10, 20, 30 other people do the same thing. So that's not to deter you from reaching out. It's just know that if they don't respond to you, it's not personal, right? That's number one. Number two, if you want to ask for something or ask for help or a connection, try to make sure you're not asking them for hours and hours and hours of time, right? If you just want them to make an intro or if they can answer a question or two, that's reasonable. But you want them to review your whole portfolio and give you feedback on a case study? Sorry, that's a lot of work and that's a lot of time. And we just don't have it to be able to spread it across 30 people we're trying to help.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
never send your CV and portfolio immediately on the first message. That is almost guaranteed for half of the people to just like throw them off. They're like, okay, cool, you already spammed me. Like, hold on, like just start a human conversation and then ask, hey, do you want the CV and the portfolio, by the way? Right? Like, don't start like by being a spammer.
Absolutely. Yes, networking is the number one skill. Imagine like going to the meetup, meeting some people, tell them about, as a freelancer, about your services, tell everyone about it. Maybe somebody knows somebody who needs somebody to help with the design system. That's how I landed like 90% of all of my freelance jobs. Attending meetups, speaking at conferences, organizing conferences, organizing meetups, telling everybody, and also like posting on social media, posting relevant tips, and this kind of stuff. So imagine getting a personal recommendation from somebody. That's like, yeah. Okay, so tips to find the design system job on LinkedIn. Also, sorry, we have this nice article by Taylor you can have a look at. How to find a design system, where we post design system jobs. So we are scanning through LinkedIn and reposting stuff. Also make sure to follow all of our panelists because many of them are also posting jobs. Other than that, I don't really know how to find a design system job on LinkedIn.
But also don't depend only on LinkedIn, right? Because
Mhm.
Google, as Thiago mentioned somewhere on the comments, Google search or other places, you can also find, and even sometimes companies don't publish right away on LinkedIn. They can also have in their internal website sometimes. So Google search might also be a possibility for you. Like, yeah. And sometimes on LinkedIn, at least I knew a person that did that. Sometimes they only doing a job posting to collect, CVs and portfolios so they can build a profile internally so they can see how's the market going and what people actually do. So just be careful, like, okay, this might be a job profiling, but they are searching like for 3-4 months. And also think of that, why they are searching for so long. Maybe it might not be the best place, so also consider like all the announcements on LinkedIn, if they're good or not, yeah. And also activate the notifications on LinkedIn, because I also see like jobs disappearing like in 3 days or 1 week and you don't see them. So that's also a thing. So notifications will be your friend on that. Yeah.
Yes. And also, it is a good move to, if you reach out to people, to offer something in return. Like, why should they have a look at your portfolio?
Yeah,
Why
for
should
sure.
they help you?
Yeah.
So maybe there's something, or maybe ask something, try to find out about people, something maybe personal about their hobbies, or try to be at least nice to them, or offer something in return. But let's say we still have to apply. And so the big question is, so we are doing a lot of networking, we're trying to find a new design system job, but now we still have to apply. Do we need a portfolio? And if yes, how should the perfect portfolio look like? Any tips? What would you include in your portfolio?
I've got a ton, but do others want to weigh in first? I don't want to hog the mic.
No, go for it. Just to see if we get inspired or see
Give
if
us
we
the pro
think the
tips,
same.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to case studies and showing things on your portfolio and whatever, I think again, remembering that every org's a little bit different, every design system's a little bit different, your work may not be exactly what they're looking for, yada, yada, yada. Like all those pieces aside, I think it's very important if you're aiming for a systems role, right? And you want to show you the experience and impact and professionalism you have in systems. It's important to not only show your UI kit or your component library or the code or the design, but it's also essential. And I'm saying essential because I've skipped portfolios that don't have this. Tell me or show me the impact that your work has had, right? Have you helped teams move faster? Have you helped unify a brand color palette? Have you made a workflow easier? And some of these things aren't easy to record, right? So very, very mindful on that. Like some of this data you may have to kind of figure out a way to report on. But it's important to, even if you don't have concrete measured numbers, like talk about the sentiment of what folks are telling you from if you only worked on a UI kit, right? If the designers are all saying this made my life so much easier, or we saved so much time on a project, like that's the stuff that's important. Because again, anyone can build a UI kit, anyone can build components, but it's the impact that this work has at an organization that makes you valuable, because you've contributed to helping an organization get more consistent or be faster or save money or whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, right, these are still jobs, right? And we need to prove as hiring managers that you understand the impact that we need to make as a system, right? All eyes are on our projects because we reach through so many projects and so many products when we start getting up and going. So knowing that an individual understands the impact is required, right? To know the depth. And this is more than just adoption, right? That's the metric that's always talked about, but that's one of them, right? The other is like sentiment on usability, right? Is the UI kit, the component library, and your documentation, has it helped people do things better, faster, stronger, whatever, right? Have you started doing patterns work, right? To help record common flows, right? Show us and tell us what impact the things you have done to have, or what impact you hope it intends to have if you don't have that data up front. I would say that's the biggest thing I think that's missing from case studies, portfolio presentations, demos, decks, doesn't matter, whatever form it takes. That's the part that's always missing.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you would expect to see a case study or something like, or a presentation, or what would you prefer?
Yeah, I know on portfolios, I think it's good to remember that, like, we talk a lot about having a bunch of case studies and stuff, but I mean, I'm going to assume the rest of the group feels the same way. We're not spending time reading every word in your case study. It's just not possible, right? Especially when you're reviewing 20 candidates a day, right? So doing some good content hierarchy on those pages, right? To guide us down the page and show us what you want us to see, right? Impact statements up at the top, overall objective of the project, and then you can go into all the stuff, right? And if we have the bandwidth or interest, we can dig into all of it, right? So whether you choose to do a fancy Figma prototype or a Squarespace website or a PowerPoint deck, it doesn't matter, so long as you have the information for us to absorb in a way that you can give us kind of like, here's the fast fact sheet, and then here's the rest of it if you're interested. That balance is always, it's hard to strike, but it's good, right? And I think the other thing to do is remember that, like, when you get into the interview and you're doing when they're like, show us a project or whatever, you can have the portfolio, right? That's kind of high level and some depth, and you've got different types of content. And then when you actually get into the interview, you can have a presentation prepared just for that interview, or one that you only use for interviews. That's what I do. I have like my portfolio that talks about the high level, like, wins we had and maybe some screenshots of stuff. And then my presentation that I actually showed during the interview goes into way more depth about the community impact and the things we did and how we approach stuff, because that's the time when you have people's attention, right? You don't have it when they're looking at your portfolio. You need to like tease them into wanting to talk to you. And then when you get to talk to them during the interview, during that exchange, whatever it is when you can kind of unload and go, here's all the stuff I know, right? You don't want to scare people away with that, or unfortunately put too much stuff on the website or your portfolio, whatever. And then I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like, how do I know what they know? There's too much stuff here, right? That's just my perspective.
Yeah, I'm going to share maybe a naive or a weird perspective, but I also like to see the portfolio as something that it will entertain a little bit the recruitment, because sometimes they even know 100% what we do. And so storytelling, I think it's very suitable when you're making a portfolio. And for instance, on the case study that you were mentioning, Seal, I see something interesting, but I'm very lazy to read all of them. And I think, wow, if I was a recruiter and I have to see 30 of this all day, that would be so much overwhelming for me to filter what's relevant or not. So maybe, for instance, you can start small, like, for instance, a component journey. Like, let's say you are rebuilding an input and then you show, I don't know, the situation and the current problems, and then you go and put, I don't know, the names that people you work with, or even if you don't, because NDA stuff, you can just, put a dummy names or a dummy logos. That's also a question that people often question me, like, how do you do it with the NDA? You just, try to put it as less dummy as possible. And then you do a journey, because you also have that on design systems, right? You have a journey, you have a user, you have a problem, and how you fixed it, and how was the happy ending, and what you learned. So maybe if you put some storytelling on the portfolio in order to entertain the people that will see it, you might have some impact than doing just a very specific, solid case study. That it could be good. Okay, you can be great about what you're putting on the case study, but in case it's just too low, too much, or too specific, the recruiter or the design manager might even have the time to appreciate it. So try to also balance and put on the people that will see it, because we are so addicted to what we do that we want to showcase everything. And sometimes for the other people be like, I didn't quite get it, so they will just move on. But yeah, my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think to add to that, like there's like a trick that a lot of like designers use, which is like condense like what you want people to know in like the first 1 or 2 paragraphs, summarize it like right at the beginning, make it a pitch, almost like why you need to continue reading, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I can think in my case, like I have like a really short one, then you enter the case study, I have like a bit longer, but it's still like super digestible. And then it's like, oh, I'm interested, and I continue reading, and it's a story. It's like we want to use storytelling all the time, but the reality is like tell a story about it. Don't just say like, oh, this is whiteboard, this is don't follow steps.
Mhm.
Tell like try to find a way to tell like the story of what happened, and don't forget to mention like the interesting bits, which is exactly like who you talk to, who you work with, like what processes you help improve, right? All of that. And then it's like thinking about the NDA, because I see a lot of people talking about that. I think
yeah.
having presentations like portfolio review is the trick for NDA, because NDA, and don't quote me on this legally, but NDA is just you cannot show things in public. You can show things in private, and everyone's doing that. Otherwise, you wouldn't ask for
Yeah,
work, like because no one would have it. So it's like
yeah,
craft like a nice presentation that tells a nice story about that work you did, and that's how you show NDA work. And make sure to tell people like, hey, I have folio review presentation stuff that I can show in private, because I have all of this NDA work that I cannot just put on a website.
Yeah, plus one of that, Tiago. I think the other piece to remember is if you're concerned, a lot of people get nervous about the NDA stuff and being like, oh, if I show it to someone on an interview, it's going to be a problem. And you know, I'll tell you two things. And here's like one like super secret behind the scene thing. No one's checking, right? There's not
yeah.
teams out here scanning people's
Yeah,
portfolios going, oh, they showed an NDA thing. No one, who has time for that, right? So that's piece one. So it's a big scary thing, but it's tactically not that scary, right? What they don't want you to do is selling that information to another company, right? But
yeah,
always better to err on the side of caution. If you can't show things like, and I put some links in the webinar chat of like how I approach that problem is I put at the top of my portfolio page, like due to content NDA sharing restrictions, I can't show this publicly. Here's some content about the work I did, right? And then to Tiago's point, in the interview, I show everything. But what I
yeah,
start with is I open with, hey, I want to recognize this is an NDA project. Does everyone agree that we're not recording this? You're not going to share this material, yada, yada, basically quote unquote extending your NDA to the people you're talking to, right? To give you some security to know that, you know, they've agreed that they're not going to share this stuff, right? And whether they do or don't, it's a different story, but it should help you feel more confident in being able to share a little bit more than maybe you would have. But also, Raquel, you mentioned like creating your own version of the project. Like that's another route too, but there's just a lot of work involved in that depending on the project, right? So consider that if you're going to go that approach, but it's not a bad one either, especially if you're, you know, wanting to show some kind of visual or some kind of information or something that would normally be locked down.
Yeah. And also don't only work on your portfolio when you're searching for jobs. Otherwise it will be so overwhelming for you, like, oh, I'm searching now, so I have to do this project now. And see your portfolio as always ongoing, like your journal or your diary or whatever. Because otherwise you're like, oh, I have the most perfect portfolio now. And then it will take so much time because it's ourselves, so we will spend so much time to put it perfectly and beautiful, and it will be so overwhelming because you have a job and you have these things outside of the work. So don't think about the portfolio only for now or only one job, and try to work it on a daily basis. And you don't have to work all day, but once in a month, like, okay, is this updated? Can I have something new there? And then put it. And yeah, I also do that approach as you did at Taylor and Tiag. I started just a website just to explore Framer and whatever. I just put like a little bit of glimpse on the website and put more private stuff on portfolio, so I can also be more, people like, I wanted to know more. And that could be also a strategy for people to talk with you. Like, I want to know more, therefore I will contact her, for instance. So that could be also good to create a mystery, let's say.
Mystery,
Just to
yes.
be a little bit controversial, I'm even not that sure if the portfolio is super, super, super important. I must say, personally, from my experience, when I started freelancing, I had to have a website for like an event, which was 2 days later. I did my website in 4 hours, and this website is still online.
Amazing.
Well, I
Amazing.
did some extra work on it by now, and as well, like, coming back to Sil's comment about networking, like a lot of job offers anyway, they are not by applying blindly on a job. And so if you already have some connections, or if somebody approaches you, I for years worked with a really crappy PDF with just some images in it, actually, and I just did voiceover. And I hired for a long time as well. And just by listening to somebody presenting himself, you have no idea how much you can really read between the lines. You see so much about what this person is actually interested, if they really know what they are talking about. And I'm sure that works the other way around as well. If I present people, they just hear if I talk, they get it, that I know enough for the job they offer me, or so don't put too much energy in this portfolio thingy. Put more energy in networking, I would say.
Yes,
that's also an interesting approach. Yeah.
Totally. I've worked on probably 20 design system projects. I don't have any website. I don't have any portfolio. It's all networking, really going to the design system meetups. Of course, it also helps to organize meetups, but you can also do it in your city. Organize your own design system meetup. Get to know people. But also, I would say it's personal development and learning. Make sure to learn the newest stuff, the newest techniques. So if it's how to measure design systems, how to plan a design system, how to create a roadmap, how to name design tokens, if you really want to stand out, because like Taylor mentioned, I think it is not that difficult to find a good, component designer, let's call it like that, or somebody who's good in Figma, who knows how to lay out. I think that's kind of probably what you can learn for free also on the internet, and should be like the basic. But if you really want to stand out also as a freelance designer, make sure to continuously learn about the newest techniques. Some folks are not into that. They're happy with their job, or like having those, I don't want to call them basic skills, because it's also really like difficult to learn it, and jobs are stressful. But if you want to like level up, make sure to learn the new stuff. Thiago, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to circle back a little bit, just like Taylor was talking about having numbers and impact, and people probably started freaking out. Oh, I don't have anything like that. So now is the time where you can actually start thinking about that, right? Like approach your next challenge at work with, how can I measure how this worked, right? Like, how can I measure the impact of what I'm doing on this feature? That is literally I got my first like case study that actually had numbers, was to be like, I was seeing like some folio review from someone that was applying for my company, and I was like, oh, cool, like this is a really nice way to talk about this. What can I do now on my job to make sure I have this for the next one? And so that's the answer, right? Like you cannot retrofit like data when you didn't have one before. So start now.
Yes. Start
Yeah, Tiago,
now.
to your point, it's never too late, right? You can always figure
Yes,
out the
yes.
data. You can always ask questions, you know, even if it's your current role, previous role, next role, you can even make some assumptions as long as you're being clear that they're assumptions, right? And just saying that you know, this is an assumption, this is the data, you know, whatever. But 100%, I think you're exactly right. Like you can do it at any time and at any, it doesn't matter what your role is either. If you're not the lead, it doesn't mean you can't start tracking how things are happening or any information about what you're doing. Or if, to Raquel's example, if you're starting from scratch even, or doing it as like a side project at your organization, like you can still keep tabs on some things, right? And ask some questions somewhere. Any information is better than no information. I did want to circle back on the portfolio topic for a second, in that I think it also depends on two things. Number one, if you're looking for a freelance job, right, or a full-time job, because I think there's a different approach for both, right? Petra, your experience tracks with anything I've done with freelance as well. Is like you don't need this robust thing. They just kind of want to know that you have capability, and then you talk about all that stuff, right? When you start talking about like some organizations, and this also depends on which country you live in, with the culture of a company, the culture of the place you live. There's some applications that will not let you submit it without a portfolio link, right? So
Yeah.
That's
there's
true.
Yeah.
That's
complication.
true. Yeah.
There's that
Yeah.
complication that makes it tough. So unfortunately, and I mean, you're hearing from all of us, right? There's no one way that's right or wrong. It really depends on all the places you are, where you're applying, how you're applying. But I've seen some comments in chat about like sometimes I just do a PDF, sometimes it's a Figma prototype. It doesn't matter what tool you use to make the portfolio or to show your work. It just matters that you have a way to show it, right? A portfolio could be a link to a Dropbox presentation. That's fine, right? Just folks need to be able to access the information you have to provide. It doesn't need to be a fancy website. You don't have to spend hours and weeks learning Webflow. Like go use Adobe Portfolio, go use Squarespace, go crank something out quickly, right? It doesn't need to be perfect because I don't remember who said it, but portfolio is an ever fixing thing. You can always work on it. You can always change it. You can always evolve it, right? You don't need to get it perfect the first time, and that's okay. And I'll tell you this little pro tip too. After each interview, if something goes wrong, or you hear them asking about something in particular a lot, or you go to 3-4 interviews and you keep hearing the same question, right? Guess what you should put
Yeah.
in your portfolio? The answer to that
Yeah.
question, right?
Yeah.
Learn based on your own data, right? The information you're hearing, the information you're getting, the information from the conversations you hear today, or in those interviews, or in those meetup groups, or Slack channels, whatever. All of that is good stuff to keep moving along in your portfolio, or add into your presentation, or at least make a note for yourself to when you're talking about yourself to an interviewer, to another person, to hit on those things, because they're obviously important if it's coming up a lot.
Nice. Yes. So what I personally would look for in a portfolio, and I've hired some freelance design system designers. So explicitly designers. What I would look for is, I would love to see, like, I would love to explore your components and the work you did. If you don't have to send me a full Figma UI kit, but maybe just some examples. I want to know that you can master auto layout. I want to see if you can master like Figma variables, or even Pro, if you're Pro and you can master Token Studio. So that's what we used a lot in all of our client projects. So that's what I would love to see. You don't have to send me a full Figma UI kit. I just want to make sure that you understand the basics. And in the case study, I would love to see or know which challenges you had to overcome and what you have learned during your last project. And if you don't have any projects at all, let's say you are a beginner, you could still learn how to create components in Figma and send me an example page. And you could study other public design systems, but make sure to pick an advanced one. Let's say Goldman Sachs is a really good one, or Atlassian, and maybe you can write something about their design system, what you have learned as a case study. Maybe you can write something about their design tokens approach. Just thinking, because if you start from scratch and you have zero experience and you apply for this kind of junior role or whatever role, this might be helpful to have. All right. Should we continue with freelance? Thank you so much for all the insights. Let's give people some freelance tips because we are running out of time and we have so many questions. We have so many topics. Let us know in the chat if this is helpful and if you want us to do another edition, because let me just quickly zoom out. There are so many topics and questions. If you find this interesting, let us know in the chat and in the Miro board, and we will do another edition. All right. So feel free to upvote some of the sticky notes so we know which topics you find interesting. I think it's a broad question how to make it as a freelance design system designer. I don't even know how to answer that, Petra.
That's a difficult one. Huh?
You just make it by making it. Yeah, it's really difficult.
Yes, I think as well. I think still to get I think perhaps it's hard to just start as a junior freelancer with design systems. Perhaps it's a good idea to start first using design systems as just a UX designer, UI designer, and then slowly emerge. Or I don't remember who it was, Rachel. I think you said it before. I think it's as well a good idea to start as a UI designer and then propose within the company. Shouldn't I help you? Updating a little bit the UI company, the library, and perhaps you could write a little documentation next to it, and perhaps it would be a good idea to sync with the development, blah, blah, blah. So to just move your way into it, I think that's as well a really good idea. But for the rest, how can you make it?
Yes.
Show your expertise,
way,
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's really important to show your expertise, make people hear you, make people believe you're an expert. For example, it's not really for design systems, but you can still apply it. Years ago, a colleague asked me to make this trend report in designs every year. I thought it was a bit ridiculous, but I did it nevertheless. And it is really funny. Still now, 10 years later, people come to me. It's like, yeah, you're the expert of designs. It's like, no, I just made a compilation of trends. That's all I did. But that really helps as well for your reputation. I think that's an important thing.
Absolutely. To make sure freelance or contractor, I think in different places it's called contractor. It's like being your kind of own boss and getting hired to do design system work. Maybe we can call it like that. But why did you even decide to go freelance? And what do you like about it? Why not being in this permanent position role, or what are some the advantages? Why did you do that?
Yeah, well, you kind of mentioned it, freedom. It's just really a nice thing. I started as a freelancer because at the time I wanted to switch towards more, at that time it was more UI design, not just advertising, but there were just no permanent jobs in that role. So I just started freelancing and looking for freelance roles, which worked way better at that time. But I'm not sure I would like to give it up now because it's so nice I still work probably as much as everybody who's employed. Or perhaps a little less. But nevertheless, I can decide if I want to go on holiday. I can decide I want to take the afternoon off. And mentally, this is just really wonderful. And I think this depends as well on the country. Here in Belgium, you earn way more freelancing as well. So as well financially, it's really interesting.
Yes, I just shared some daily rates today on Twitter. It's in the bottom left. They are basically my notes because I cannot switch screens. So from my experience, this is the daily rate in UI UX product design for the German and Swiss market. I can only tell. Not sure about you, Petra, if you can relate to these numbers or roundabout.
They are, but this kind of the same. Yes.
Yes. So for a UI UX product designer, in my opinion, it's less. As a design system designer, you can earn more, but really it depends on your skills. So if you know how to build components and stuff, let's not call it basic, but that's what you really need to know. But on top of that, if you can also master techniques like measuring the design system, planning the design system, token studio, naming tokens, and this kind of stuff, you can earn more money. And in my opinion, there's a high demand for design tokens pros because at least for the German market, everyone has probably set up their kind of basic design system, or let's call it UI kit, what it is. But now they, of course, if you want to scale, you need design tokens. I don't know how other than that doing that. So now they're looking for people who can help them with their current UI kits to have a look at, if everything is all right, and you can help them implementing design tokens. So my number one tip is to make sure to learn the newest and most relevant techniques beyond auto layout. Keep learning always. The market will reward you because, there are many good designers, but how do you stand out? For me as a client, I would look for somebody who can help me make more money, help me reduce time, help me to, I don't know, achieve my goals. I think this also goes for permanent roles. So you always try to think about that. And stakeholders usually don't care about features. They don't care about auto layout tokens, whatever. They just want to, achieve a goal. And you need to find out which goal that is and ask a lot of questions. I'm also very transparent, so I can also share my daily rate if you're interested. I recently stopped freelancing, to focus on design systems. But back then I was charging crazy daily rates because I can tell that with Token Studio, once I learned about Token Studio at Design Systems, this was for me, for our project, this was life-changing because I was usually doing with my team like any kind of migration work, like migrating from XD to Figma, migrating the UI kit from Sketch to Figma, and it was kind of always the same work. So because the components, they look very similar. The only thing is they have a different style, but the skeleton is really similar of a button or whatever. So we ended up building a white labeled UI kit because we wanted to, copy paste from the UI kit, and then we started everything with Token Studio. Back then it was called Figma tokens. So we could take on like 3 or 4 projects at the same time because we saved a lot of time, and it was really much easier to create those UI kits. So we were focusing a lot on UI kits and doing component design work, and why designing or building all those Figma stuff like from scratch, especially the basic components. So we used this little hack and took on many projects. Yeah, Raquel, you're raising your head.
Yeah, just out of curiosity
for
for
accident?
people. No. It was a question. Out of curiosity, because some people might, because they are full-time, and sometimes even myself, I wonder, I think companies have a little bit of difficulty on to justify usually people that do design system in a full-time, like what you do all year. So I was wondering, when you're doing freelance, Petra and Steel, do you can measure how many time do you spend on a client? Like it's usually 3 months or 6 months, or do you do like a package? Like, okay, with this client, for sure that will be only like 1 month or 3 months, because that will also, I think, impact and how many clients you can do at the same time, right? And because you mentioned that you also have like a white label components like ready to go, how do you can assure that you have work with quality without making the idea that it's super fast and in 1 month everything will just appear done, so you can justify also your stability as a freelance. I was wondering, just out of curiosity, how many time do you spend with a client and so on? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I work a little bit different than Sil. I work longer times with a client.
Okay.
So
Okay.
one of my clients, I already worked 10 years and now just 1 day a week. So it's really more
Okay.
maintenance modus.
Okay. Okay. Understand.
For
Yeah.
one other client, I worked a year. The current client, I'm working 3 days a week already for a little bit more than a year, like 1.5
Okay.
years. So it is longer term because I agree. For me personally, I like as well to be involved a little bit longer and to see that it gets kicked off and not just produced.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah,
as well
because
a personal way how people want to work, yeah, and what they are asked for.
Yeah. Because when you do freelance, you might have, the thing that might not see the ultimate results probably. So I just out of curiosity wondering, but okay, you stay more longer. What about you, Sil? Did you get the question or what do you think?
Yeah. Usually we were focusing really on this migration UI kit part. So it took us probably a month or 6 weeks to do the migration, and that's it. And I usually work like 4 days per week maximum.
Okay.
Because you're a freelancer, you can negotiate with the client. You can tell them on Fridays I'm not available. That's it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you work crazy hours, like 10 hours per day. Sometimes you work like 2 hours, but of course you charge for the full day because it's your experience you've gained over the last years. Never charge like per hours. Oh, it only took me 5 minutes to change this in Token Studio, whatever. So now, you won't charge like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And also like for like I've mentioned, for the freelance design systems designers, they're also spending a lot of time on learning new stuff to stay relevant in the market. So clients also pay for experience, not only for the time. Taylor, you have also freelance. Can you relate to that? Do you like charge per hour, per day, or what was your approach?
Yeah, the only systems projects that I've, at least in the design system space, that I've done freelance work has been more strategy stuff, and I tend to prefer flat rate pricing as opposed to hourly. At least here, like where I'm at, someone always gets screwed when it comes to hourly. Either you're getting screwed because you're not billing enough, or the company's paying not enough for the time that you're getting. So like I've always found that a very clear scope, like a document, right? It's like, this is what we will do, this is what we won't do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then a flat rate that's applied. It just makes it easier for me because I don't have to track stuff. And I think what it does, at least it has helped me with, is like if I need to learn something on the job, right? And I know it's going to take me a week to do whatever, I can't responsibly bill the client for that, right? I just know I have to figure it out, right? So it buys me the time to not have to worry about that because I'm not like worrying about hours here and did I do the work? Like it's just, I know I got to get the thing done and I may have to learn something to do it, right? So it buys you that time. But then when you have that skill, to your point, so like if it takes you 5 minutes to do it next time, you're not billing for 5 minutes, you're billing the flat rate, and you have bought and processed that time into your rate as you go. So, but I mean, as you've heard from everyone else here, right, it really depends on the type of engagement, like the type of client. So I think flexibility is important, but I think it's also important to like know where your personal lines are and are not. Like, are you willing to work 1 hour, or you do it in 4-hour blocks? Do you want to do day rates or month rates or week rates or whatever? And flexibility is good, but it's also okay to say no, right? Or be like, no, this is the contract, this is how it works. If you'd like to bring me on, here's how we do it, right? You are in control until that contract is signed, right? Don't sacrifice your own values or your own headache on having to figure out billing and whatever just because some work is being difficult, right? So figure out where your threshold is for that, so you can not only like do the work for them, but responsibly do your own work and help yourself stay afloat.
Absolutely. Tiago.
Yeah, I just wanted to add like a little bit of like a nudge to the full-timers. So if you find on the resources board, I actually have written a page very much inspired by Dan Moll about salary. So I have pretty much my entire salary history since I came to Sweden. I'll also share it in the chat. It might be interesting. It's a very specific context. It won't be true for most European countries. It will probably be like much lower in Portugal, for instance. I'm looking at you, Raquel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, you can check that out if you want a little bit of a
Damn, now I need
notion
to
about
find
that.
it in the chat. She posted your salary in the chat? In which chat? Oh, there's the
on
link.
this chat. No, I
in this
think it's
chat.
not my current one. It's just like the past ones. I try not to like bother my current
Yeah.
employer. Like it's a bit bad. Then people start asking questions. But old jobs, well, it's old. Like it's
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Okay. But what skills are clients currently looking for, Petra, in your experience or in your opinion?
Well, you kind of mentioned it already. I think tokens by now is not only a plus, it's a must. Tokens, variables, whatever. I see all the clients. Actually, I see a little bit of switch from building up a design system from scratch more towards upgrading, maintaining next level theming, these things. So yeah, all this knowledge is really needed, I think, as well. I really want to emphasize as well, but we already said that the social skills, I think they're really very much underestimated. For some weird reason, we don't put that on our CV. Not really.
Oh, yes.
Although it's so important. You're really a people manager. It's like all about selling the design system, getting people on board, getting them to be your friends. And yeah, well, friends, but so important. So all these skills are really important, though they will never really appear probably when they asked for you to start working. But you will need them if you want to do a good job, I think.
Absolutely.
Towards programming knowledge, for example, I don't code myself. I'm really a designer, but I do know how the developers code. So I'm very much aware of that. So I think as well, that is really important if you want to make, if you work with tokens, you really want to have the tokens in sync with code. Otherwise, they don't make much sense. And then if you, colors, that's an easy thing. But if you go more towards spacing, you go towards all the other difficult stuff, you really need to know how developers develop. So I think that's as well a knowledge you need to gain, at least the theoretical knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Taylor.
Yeah, I want to add one piece to that. Petra, I 100% agree. Conceptually, understanding how, where, what, when design tokens function and how the other discipline, whether you're a designer or an engineer, can utilize them is great. I think two things that I think folks should also focus on. Number one, how your consumers of those tokens understand them, right? Consumers meaning the designers and engineers that are using the system. I think often that part is forgotten about when we're learning about them, right? Is we learn how to make them, how to do them and their importance, but then we forget about the translation layer, right? Like, well, how do we tell people how to use them? Because we're now the technical experts, and it's not their responsibility to understand everything about it. It's ours. So we need to then tell them, here's what you need to know, right? Kind of thing. The other piece, and this is a bit of a hot take, I think, with some of the folks on this call, but remembering too that not every organization is going to be able to use Token Studio or the plugin you want or that fancy approach or even Figma, right? I think it's important to note that like these are like the hot tools now, the popular ones, the ones that are being used by everybody. But depending on the organization you're trying to work for, whether it's freelance or full-time, they may be behind the curve on converting to these new tools. Or like I can speak for the organizations that I've worked, there's a robust approval process before you can use something like Token Studio because it connects to a code base. So there's a chance that like they may say no. Right. And then, so my point in saying that is like, don't put all of the eggs in a specific tools basket. Like understand the concepts, right? The point, the tooling as a whole, because Figma can go away tomorrow. Token Studio can go away tomorrow. The organization you work at could say, we're going to use Sketch. Like you don't know what's going to happen there. So it's more important to understand the concepts, all the stuff we're talking about here, right? Than really, really becoming a super expert only on one tool. If you want to have a longer tail career or a wider chance of doing different things. There's nothing wrong with being a Token Studio expert and only chasing those clients or chasing those roles. That's a great path if that's what you want to do. But just, word of advice doesn't always mean that they'll be able to be used everywhere, right? So don't set yourself up to be like, I only know tokens through Token Studio. It's like, well, tokens aren't just in Token Studio. They're everywhere, right? So understanding the concepts is almost, in my opinion, more important so that you can then better use the tools at your disposal and be able to do all the things that everyone's talking about on the call.
Yes, absolutely. Also, like I've mentioned, stakeholders don't really care about any features and about auto layout. They don't give a fuck. What was Figma variables? They don't even know what it is. All they are interested in how can they achieve a certain goal? How can they, for example, save time? How can they make more money, or whatever their goal is? You need to find out from your freelance design system client what the real goal is. Sometimes it's even to make your boss or the person who hired you to make them shine because they want to get a raise or they have certain goals.
Yes.
Try to find
Yes.
out how you can make them shine, how you can impress them. Try to find out who they are reporting to, like your manager. What are your manager's goals?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's how you can, in my opinion, land like a really long-term client project. Try to find out what their needs are, what the real goals are. So my first question is always, what is the main goal of this design system? Who is going to work on it? Who needs that? So this is kind of the questions I always ask.
Yeah. I will also add, try also to sell the service of defining process and post design system setup, because it's usually something that once you are out of the picture, they're like, oh, and what we do with all of this work. So the process itself, like a little bit of design operation, let's say, can also help them a lot to keep up the work that you invested in. Depending how much time you will be there allocated, for instance, on a freelance reality, that could also be a good thing, like also selling the post use of the first investment, perhaps that can also help. Yeah.
Yes, I think learning about business needs and how to sell yourself. I see also people who don't care about really perfect pixel perfect design, or who are not really the best designers, but they are great at selling their services.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great skill.
Tiago, I think you raised your hand, or was it Taylor? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Something with T.
Raquel, I was nodding along when you were talking about process and all that stuff, and then I immediately had a thought, and I was like, I think we should also mention that, like, we know that stuff's important, but it's often the hardest thing to sell at an organization, whether you're doing freelance or you're in-house, it doesn't matter, because they don't see the immediate. Certain business leaders will see the value, but a lot are like, well, we just want the component library. We just want the magic you're talking about. It's like, well, we got to build all this infrastructure first, right? So I think it's important, like, for your own mental health to remember that, like, design systems work is a marathon, not a sprint, right? It is a long-term culture change in every facet of the work, right? Whether you're popping in for an hour engagement or you're there for 5 years, like, it doesn't matter. You're changing the way work is done. You're using a UI kit and tokens and components to do that change, but that process stuff, if that isn't there, like, it's missing. And I can speak from experience in that some of the orgs I've worked for have tried to do the design system thing by, like, hiring an agency, and the agency comes and brings in this big UI kit, and then they leave. And then the internal team that's meant to support that thing is like, well, they didn't build it with us. They didn't train us on how to use it. So now we don't know what this is. And the organization paid all this money for this resource, but didn't do any of the process work to know how to then use that or share it with people or distribute it. And, like, that to me is the magic of this, of being a systems person, is to go, we can do all those resources. That's, quote unquote, the easier part. But as professionals in our space, we can help you refine those processes. We can give you that strategy. And that's where experts like Petra and Sil come into play, of, like, they do this for a living. Like, that is where the guidance, the brain power is, right? And then Tiago and Raquel and myself are inside companies doing that for them. Like, it's the other piece. And that's the part that doesn't matter what tool, doesn't matter what framework you're using, that stuff sticks around, right? And it's the longer lasting thing.
For sure. Totally agreed. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe 2 more questions before we wrap this up. I mean, we have so many topics and so many questions. Thank you, everyone, for posting questions. We will definitely come back and reply to some of them async. So you will find a comment or a sticky note for sure. Maybe 2 more questions. Is it difficult to get design system gigs right now for a freelance designer? Petra, for you, how difficult is it to find new gigs or clients?
Up till now, it was actually not difficult at all. It was, the difficult part was to choose which one you do and which one you don't.
The luxury of choosing.
Indeed,
A
indeed.
good
And that's
dilemma.
actually as well a trouble. But I must say, at least here in Belgium, I see a little change. It's like for a reason I don't really get yet why they don't really like so much working with freelancers anymore. They really prefer either working with really big consulting companies who have their own freelance base. Why they are not freelance, but they send them as freelance, or to hire internal people. So I'm not sure if this is just some coincidence or it's that a Belgian thing. I'm not sure. I'm curious what the others here in the panel say about it. So I find it like, yeah, the last year, there are less opportunities for freelancers, but that's just my experience.
So back then, when I think I stopped like a year ago, there were so many opportunities, so many freelance jobs. I could also like choose. But right now I have really for the German market, I have no idea. Maybe people in the chat, if there are any freelancers, can let us know how it looks like right now. All right, but okay, maybe one last question for you all. Where do you learn about new techniques required, like to do this freelance client work or to learn about design systems? Where do you learn about new techniques, Petra?
Well, on your conferences,
Yeah,
of course.
Nice.
And I have some like of the usual suspects I follow on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Somehow this way, the articles you really need to read, they always come to you. I also use a lot Slack channels, design system, Slack channel into design system, where there are a lot of people asking very specific questions. And if I have one, I always Google there. You kind of, this is like a living encyclopedia. It's really great. So that's where I as well learn a lot of things. I follow workshops and I just try out. I just, do it for myself, learning by doing. I think these are the most main things.
Nice. For me, I really like to learn hands-on. Like I like to see examples and I like to see how people or experts are doing it. There are for sure some cool design conferences and stuff with great storytelling where you get inspired, where you meet a lot of people, but I'm more like the workshop or the hands-on person. I really want to see examples and demos, and I want to get templates and files and all this kind of stuff. You know, I'm mostly into design systems. It's mostly inspired by developer conferences because they share code and their GitHub repos and they just hang and do all this cool stuff in code. Why isn't there something like that for design conferences? So yeah, with the next conference, it'll be very, very hands-on and practical. So you can learn from some real examples. That's how I like to learn. And the rest of the time, I usually read Medium articles. We also posted many of them on LinkedIn. I think my number one resource is really like stuff from Nathan Curtis. Other than that, the Design System Office Hours podcast by Davey and PJ. It's also a really cool resource.
Yes.
How about you folks? Where do you learn like about design system stuff?
I mean, you have to follow Romina, right? Like, so Design Systems
Romina.
Guide
Yes, absolutely.
it's amazing. It's impossible. Like, how does she do it? Like, right? It's like such a pool of like just knowledge there.
Yes, let's have a look. The Design System Guide. I think it's also one of my favorite resources, also recommending this to beginners, to experts, to everyone. It's a really nice guide, free guide by Romina, who is also speaking at our conference. So I think she's writing in a very like entertaining way. It's really easy to understand. Like I think for tokens, there's an example with cats and just in a human way.
Yeah, so I think that's a
Design
great
system
call
guide.
out. Not only is Romina's stuff great, but it's digestible, right? You can understand it if you don't know what you're looking at. And I think my my only tip on where to find content beyond everything everyone's already said is also challenge yourself not to look at the usual suspects, right? Like looking at Salesforce and looking at, Spotify's design system and all that stuff. Like the big ones that you see often have large, like not marketing teams, but like people who have time to spend on those efforts, right? And write that content in a way. And I think what happens, and I could speak to this, specifically with folks that I've tried to hire or that we've, even on the teams I've served, is we start to look at those big orgs and go, oh, they did it that way, therefore we should do it that way too. But what we forget is that worked for them. It doesn't mean it's the only way to do it, right? So I like to go and find like the niche ones, the smaller companies, the other doc sites that are public, because that's where some of the innovation happens, right? The weird approaches, the weird ways to solve a problem. And then you can try it and go, that works for my organization because the big Google material way didn't work, or whatever. So just remembering to balance what you're looking at, like all those big ones, like again, Salesforce material, whatever, are good to look at, but also supplement it with some of the smaller ones, because there's often innovation in those that gets overlooked, right? Or different ideas that may stir something in your head to go, maybe we try it this way, right? Because again, there's no one way to do any of this stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely
totally agree.
agree. We're into design systems with the conference. We are trying to, provide content also for design system teams of one or smaller teams. We recently did a poll and most of them voted that they're like a design system team of one or a small team. I know there are some really cool talks and it's really cool to get inspired, but usually they're presenting really cool plugins, like internal plugins or their recent work, like they have worked like 100 people on this. And you as a design system team of one, they're like, shit, I don't even have time to do documentation. Look at this giant design system project and what they have achieved. But there are so many people working on this. And like Taylor mentioned, they also have a marketing team. They have time to shoot a promo video only for the design system. What the hell? That's so cool. I don't even have time to, I don't know, think about properly how to name tokens. But yeah, what are your favorite resources, Ragged, to learn about design systems?
Yeah, so basically my algorithm on LinkedIn, it's basically following experts. I learned a lot from Vitaly from Smashing Magazine. He always has such a nice postings with a lot of links and also with the authors. They're so well organized. They're like the most saved posts that I have from him because I even study what he proposed and which people you should follow. So Vitaly is also amazing on that matters because it also shares things that can be indirectly related to design system, but not that geeky. For instance, processing or for instance, accessibility and so on. So I think Smashing Magazine, most specifically Vitaly, usually shares a lot and it's very good. It's very organized as well. Yeah. I think you also have a print screen of him right there somewhere.
I put that in indeed.
So he also helps in so many topics regarding design. I think he's a great asset. And also maybe perhaps try to do a mentoring on ADP list, right? You also have Thiago here, but for instance, you can also try to ask for mentoring a specific people that you might be interested or have a curiosity, and maybe mentoring can also be a good way for you to learn in a more specific way instead of just do a search on LinkedIn that everybody also consumes. Maybe that could also be interesting for you as well. Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Thiago? What are your favorite resources?
Oh yeah, it's like so much stuff. Like, but I mean, if you want to learn Figmalion, right? The newsletter, it's like one of my favorite reads. And then just follow the guys from Figma. Like if you want that level, for instance, like follow Migi, follow Louis. Like they are always posting stuff because that's literally what they do. So that would be like for the very Figma style stuff. And it's like start owning like your LinkedIn algorithm, start training it, like start following interesting people. Like Twitter used to be awesome. Now I kind of like had to leave for obvious reasons. But I think Blue Sky might be coming. Like I haven't found like a replacement for Twitter, but LinkedIn has actually been my home for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, make sure to have a look at our YouTube channel. We posted some of our meetups and conference videos there. There's Medium, there's the design system guide. So many resources posted here, and we will post even more. Follow us on LinkedIn. I usually share like twice a week some cool Figma plugins and stuff on this Into Design Systems page. A lot of stuff. Make sure to network and follow all these awesome people who have attended our meetup today. Thank you so much for attending our meetup. It was a pleasure to share all these insights with you, to have this conversation with Petra, Raquel, Tiago, and Taylor. Please give them a big round of applause in the chat. And don't leave
Thank
now.
you. What a great audience. Thank you.
Very welcome. I hope to see you soon and we can do another edition. But don't leave now. I think we had like this question, what people struggle the most with in terms of design systems. Don't look at the board. What do you think is the number one like request? The number one challenge, the biggest challenge?
Probably variables or theming. Not sure, but I will I will take a chance on that.
I would say like design development alignment, but maybe I'm just colored.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think more how to get it sold in the company, because I think that's still it
It's still a
remains
thing,
the
right?
biggest problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I wrote down, you can probably read it, but I wrote down how to name design tokens.
Really? Still that?
Yeah, let's have a look. I haven't had a look. My current challenge is, yeah, let's have a look. Oh, there are many challenges. Selling the design system. Another time after a year in business. Getting the good approach with AI. Oh yeah, we haven't touched AI at all. Probably next time.
Really weird, actually.
Key
Yeah.
metrics to measure the success
so
of your design
happy.
system. Oh yeah, that's also a very good one. Measuring design systems. Design
Metrics,
system
yeah.
portfolio. I think we don't have a clear winner. There are many
No.
people have many problems with design systems. Still.
It's a system of problems.
It's a system of problems. Yeah. Perfect. So let's have a look like at our mood board, at our vision board, how people feel about design systems nowadays. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. Not sure if I am cleaning or organizing a mess. Oh yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, we are in this boat together. Everyone has like challenges. It's really difficult to work on design systems, even the big companies. If you have a look at like behind the scenes, it's also difficult for them. Sometimes you just see their perfect documentation. You see a promo video and you think like, oh my God, this is awesome. But for sure behind the scenes, it's really also challenging for them. And also there are many people working on it. So if you have designed some team of one or a small team, really respect. Yeah, nice. Somebody found the meme I posted. I posted this meme like 3 years ago, probably, or 2 years ago.
Oh. They promised it last year.
Yeah.
We're halfway.
Last
halfway.
year. Okay. Yes. So in the meantime, there's another cool tool called Token Studio. Probably want to use that or just do whatever you want. Don't use any gradients or typography in your UI kit for a while. Pretty sure they will
You don't
release
need that,
something very
do
soon,
you?
but we don't know. You don't need that. Typography, gradients, just do buttons without text. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you liked the event. I hope to see you soon at the Meta Meetup or at the conference. if you want to have a look at the conference one more time, because I'm so excited. We have been working really hard on this for about the year, so we hope that you will like it and we can cover all the interesting topics and help you with 99% of your problems and challenges. So if you like this event, I hope to see you at Meta or at the conference or at Nathan Curtis' workshop. Imagine having this in your CV. Huh? Like this
Top
certificate.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I think this will level up you like very quickly to the moon. All right, I will stop sharing my screen. So, over here to say goodbye. Have a nice evening, a nice day.
Later.
Thanks
Thank you
everyone
so
for
much.
joining us. Hope to see you next time. See you back in the Miro board. We will reply to more questions. Let us know if you like the event and leave us a testimonial. We will display it on our website. Your chance to get some fame, to become famous.
50 minutes of fame.
Raquel, you're already on the website. And
Yes,
Petra, I think
I already have.
you as well with your testimonial.
Yeah.
Maybe you will get
It
some
was
new job
great.
offerings. All right. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights. It was a pleasure to do this event with you. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much to the
Thank
audience and to
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.